Tervetuloa kuuntelemaan Syvää Henkeä podcastia. Tässä podcastissa me sukelletaan pintaa syvemmälle mielenkiintoisten vieraiden kanssa. Tämänkertainen jakso on myös puhuttu englanniksi ja meillä on vieraana mun ystävä Eric Puro. Eric on Karjalohjalla sijaitsevan lääkesienitehtaan ja sienitehtaan toimitusjohtaja sekä toinen perustaja. Eric on työskennellyt erilaisten sienten parissa yli 9 vuoden ajan ja kuuluu myös tällaiseen kansainväliseen lääkesieniyhdistyksen johtoon. Eric yrittää myös koko aika optimoida ja viedä eteenpäin tällaista innovatiivista ajattelua ja hyödyntää sitä tuomaan lisää erilaisia ratkaisuja sienten parissa. Tämä jakso tulee olemaan syvä sukellus sienten pariin sekä myös Ericin matkaan tähän pisteeseen. KÄÄPÄ Mushrooms on myös tämän podcastin pääsponsori. Ja mulla on ollut KÄÄPÄ Mushroomsin tuotteet jo vuosia käytössä ja voin sanoa, että heillä on Suomen ja sanoisin maailman laadukkaimmat sienituotteet. Heidän verkkosivuiltaan löytyy laaja valikoima erilaisia sienituotteita, millä kaikilla on hyvin erilaisia hyötyvaikutuksia. Osa vaikuttaa sinne keskittymiseen, parantaa aivoja, osa vaikuttaa tosi vahvasti sinne immuniteettiin, vastustuskykyyn ja näistä lisää myös tässä jaksossa. Käyttämällä koodia Syvää Henkeä heidän verkkokaupassaan saat alennusta kaikista näistä sienituotteista sekä samalla tuet tätä podcastia. Voit myös tukea tätä podcastia tykkäämällä, kommentoimalla ja ehdottomasti tilaamalla tämän kanavan sekä antamalla Spotifyssa arvostelun. Nöyrin kiitos. Ja kiitos myös kaikesta palautteesta, mitä te olette laittanut mun suuntaan. Se antaa todella paljon inspiraatiota jatkaa ja viedä hommaa eteenpäin. Sen takia myös nämä kommentit, tykkäykset, tilaukset on todella arvokkaita, että saadaan vielä tätä podcastia muiden kuultaville myös. Seuraavaksi käydään jakson pariin, oikein hyviä ja inspiroivia kuunteluhetkiä sinne. Amazing to have you into the Syvää Henkeä podcast, Eric. Nice to have you in the
Really
quest.
good to be here.
Yeah.
Really good to be here.
Yeah, super happy that all the schedules and everything came together and we got this time together.
Finally, yeah.
I know you're busy
Yeah.
businessman and you're doing many projects and you are helping many of people and as well first of all I want to as well give credit and thank you for coming to sponsoring this podcast as well.
Of course, yeah. I think we've been friends for what, like 56 years? Something?
Yeah, something like this, yeah.
but I think what you're doing here is great.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think it's so important to share these conversations with people.
Yeah.
And help that inspiration. So it's a no-brainer, KÄÄPÄ, to help support that.
Yeah, and super happy. And like I have been every episode, have been telling this like to my audience that these KÄÄPÄ products have been on my use like already like many years. And the thing with KÄÄPÄ is like the pure quality, and we're gonna dive into that as well in some point. But first, I want to ask you, what is like your favorite mushroom?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, there's so many. I don't even know how to answer that. I think I have a really special relationship with so many different mushrooms actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I had to pick one, it would be the morel mushroom. Do you know this mushroom?
No.
So it's what is the mushroom here in Finland that you have to boil a couple times? It's kind of looks like a brain almost. It's huttasieni.
Yeah. Korvasieni.
Korvasieni.
Yeah,
So
it's delicious as well.
it's really nice. So
Yeah.
there's a mushroom that's very similar to korvasieni.
Yeah.
It's called huttasieni. It's in English it's morel mushroom.
Okay.
It's very rare in Finland. Like if I found one
Yeah.
in years and years. But you can find them here. But they're much more prevalent lower altitudes in the U.S., for instance. But when I grew up, right, I was spending 2 weeks a year with my father, my mother, and my brother trying to find these mushrooms in Michigan, right, in the U.S.
Yeah.
So my dad would go, all right, everybody, get in the car, and he'd have all the food, camping gear, tents, and we'd head out to the woods, and we'd drive all the way to northern Michigan, and we'd just spend 2 weeks eating food over the fire and trying to find this mushroom. And it was just like such an amazing experience growing up.
Yeah.
You know, my dad saying, okay, how do we get back to the car? Point to the car. and we'd have to learn how to we learn how to navigate in the forest. We learned how to just, as you're looking for mushrooms, you have something to do. You're not on a trail, right? You're just walking in the woods. As most Finnish people understand how to search for mushrooms.
Yeah.
But I mean, in America, this is a very unique experience, actually. And to me, it was, at the end, we had this beautiful time connecting as a family, playing these games, understanding our curiosities, and then having this beautiful mushroom at the end, So it was really this, and then of course we would bring that mushroom back, we would freeze it, and on special occasions we would bring it out of the freezer and we'd make a meal with it, and we'd have that memories come back too. So I think, and with morel mushrooms, they're a type of mushroom that's called mycorrhizal. So they actually, like cantarelli, right? They form connections with the root tips of plants, and they trade nutrition from the soil for sugars from the plant, right?
Wow.
So they have this really special relationship, and you can't grow them. So I remember my dad always saying, you can't grow this. You have to go commune with nature to get this mushroom. So it felt magical and special in that way, that we are this apex species on the planet. We have controlled everything, but we can't do this.
Yeah.
This little mushroom, we don't know how to grow it. How, and it felt like there's still things at that frontier, right? That's magical and still inspiring, and there's still stuff to complete in this world. So for me, it was just, from a very early age, mushrooms just were this kind of magical thing that we didn't fully understand.
Yeah.
And that was kind of ingrained, and so probably that's why I'm here. So if I have to say what's my favorite mushroom, it's probably the mushroom that made me have the relationship with all the other mushrooms, right?
Yeah, that was like the key. I haven't heard this story never. So this was kind of like the first touch with the kind of mushroom world.
Yeah.
And from that it had been expanding as well.
Yeah.
Like KÄÄPÄ is working with like medicinal mushrooms mostly like lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, shiitake. What else there is, like what you use?
Turkey tail.
Reishi
mushroom.
Yeah, exactly, reishi.
Chaga. I mean, there's about eight or so species that we work with on a normal basis. And I mean, those of course now have a huge place in my heart, and seeing the impact that they have for people's health as well has been a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
So I think, now of course the focus of my life is much more on these narrow eight species. But I mean, we're also always looking at what's next, because if we think about these 8 species are fantastic species, but the only reason we talk about these 8 species isn't that they're the best necessarily. It's that they were the ones used in ancient Chinese medicine 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago.
Exactly.
So they have this kind of traditional use case, and for that reason, they were then used in Europe, and we have legal regulatory reason to be able to sell them and work with them here. But there's a lot of species of fungi, and I mean, from a bioactive or like the compound level place, there's probably between 1,000 and 1,000,000 times more species of fungi than plants.
Yeah.
And we're more closely related to fungi than we are to plants as well. So from just a source of interesting bioactives to support our health, fungi is just a huge, vast, uncharted territory of these species that we can start to look at and categorize and find out what they can do.
All these studies are very interesting. What we start to understand more deeper this world of mushrooms, and just to note that what you were saying, like for the listeners, even highlight that like we are more close to the mushrooms than to the plants, like the human being. How does that work? Like,
yeah, how does that work? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense somehow. But I mean, from an evolutionary biological standpoint, if you look at the tree of evolution, as we started to branch off and form these different kingdoms, we say mushrooms were the last branch before humans. So not only are mushrooms we're more closely related to mushrooms, but mushrooms are more closely related to humans than to plants as well, right? It's that to me is the most fantastic thing. It's like you look at nature and you look at this ecosystem and you go, well, okay, mushrooms are definitely closer to the plants.
Yeah,
I would identify that they're more similar than a human being and a mushroom.
Yeah,
but it's not the case.
Yeah,
and when I learned that, it gave me chills, because you just start to think about the potential. I mean, mushrooms, they breathe oxygen, they release CO2, just like humans. They get the flu virus, just like us. Yeah. they
they sneezing like?
Yeah, they get a little sneezy. Yeah, they feel bad. They get the man flu as well, which really sucks. But they also, they get cancers, different forms of cancer. So they have a lot of the similar, let's say, attacks that humans do as well. So that's, I think, really why the compounds they make are so helpful for humans too. And because of, and the interesting thing is that, we have receptors for the compounds that they make, and we don't make those compounds. Why? Why did we evolve to have the ability to utilize chemical compounds from a mushroom species? It didn't happen at the human level, right? That probably has been happening long before Homo sapiens or Homo naledi or any hominoid species existed. Probably mammals, if you go look at reindeer eating fungus, bear are eating fungus, not necessarily for the protein or the fat. I think many animals, commune with the fungal kingdom in a way to help support something, to regulate something internally. And I think if you look at the biggest organ in our bodies is actually our gut microbiome by weight. That's not even us.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of bacteria and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not us, but that is the biggest organ in our body.
Yeah.
And so it's actually a symbiotic relationship we have with our gut microbiome. 80% of our serotonin, 5-HTP, is produced in our gut. It's not even in our brain. We always think that no. It's our gut. Our bacteria make us happy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So they pre-digest the food, et cetera, et cetera. Many people like to say that we don't eat food for ourselves. We eat it for our microbiome, which then gives us the enzymes. But I think that if we take away the gut microbiome, we have massive problems. We're depressed. Our immune system isn't regulated. We don't get enough. We have weird allergies. We have autoimmune issues. We don't work. And so what can you draw a conclusion? Well, the conclusion you can easily draw is that we co-evolved our gut system, our digestive tract system, with the presence of that bacteria. And if you look at this Otzi, the oldest known human species, it's 3,000. Otzi, the guy in northern Tirol in Italy. He was, homeboy was like, he was hunting or something. He was in the northern Alps. He's killed. There's an arrow, I think, in his shoulder they found. Anyway, the guy dies at the Austrian Alps in the tundra, and they open up his body and they find 1,000 times more microbiome species than we have in our guts today, and species that are actually totally extinct that we don't have. That's a cool product. If we could have like a pill to ancestral gut microbiome probiotic pill, that would be, oh my God. I don't know. If anyone's listening and wants to do that, please call me. But I think that's a super cool fact. And I think, the other two things he had on him were mushrooms. He had 2 functional mushrooms on him, right, when they found him. So just like we probably co-evolved with the gut microbiome species to be able to handle digestion and create neurochemicals for our brain like serotonin, we probably co-evolved also with fungi, right? So you look at mammals that have been eating fungi for a long time. You look at old human species. You see them carrying fungi with them, functional mushrooms, not to eat. These were conchs, KÄÄPÄ. They don't eat KÄÄPÄ. These are functional mushrooms. So if we think of the benefit that fungi have as a number one, it's this immune regulation. We call it adaptogenic properties. We call it immune balance. If you're autoimmune, it means your immune system's too active. It calms it down. If you're having long-term inflammation, it speeds it up. So why we evolved an immune system that gets out of whack? Why? How do we not have a self-regulating principle inside of our body that's functioning? Why do we have so many people with autoimmune problems or inflammation issues? I think almost everybody has some inflammation problems and has some autoimmune problems almost always.
Yeah.
I think it's because we evolved to just be taking in enough functional mushrooms in our diet that it was regulating us that way.
Yeah.
So we never evolved the ability ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So
this is very interesting, and Otzi as well. Like this story, I have never heard this.
Okay.
And very interesting to hear. There were 2 mushrooms on the system as well.
So what he had was a necklace with one of the functional mushrooms right here, and it was a species called birch polypore.
Oh, okay.
Birch polyp. It grows here in Finland as well. It's like it's kind of white. It's a kappa. It's like a bracket fungus.
Mm-hmm.
Usually find them on dead or fallen over birch trees, and it's really good anti-parasitic.
Mm.
Right?
So you can use it into the injuries or something like.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the main use is if you're eating a bunch of raw meat, or something, and you're getting parasites.
Mm-hmm.
It's helping to detox and cleanse the parasites out of your body, right? So if you're like, Otzi walking around, a lot of times those guys, I mean, they didn't hunt, they would just scavenge a lot of times too. So you just eat whatever you can, and then you're going to get parasites. Yeah. And then you have this to kind of clean. So I think it's on his necklace because if you have some hot liquid, you can just kind of, reach over and put the necklace into that hot liquid, and you make a tea.
Yeah, from that.
Very basic, So and the other mushroom he had was it's called tinder fungus. Very very similar to chaga, right? So it's very high in antioxidants. It's very good with beta glucan levels. So also very good just for general immune support as well.
And the one thing with the mushroom as well, you were touching so many areas already there.
Yeah.
but the one very interesting fact about the mushroom is how the mushroom is connecting like through all the nature and kind of like we have a lot of that mushroom as well in the way how you can say that like in English proper way, but like on our gut, like you were talking about this, and so there is this kind of fungus as well. Fungus, do I say it? Like,
yeah.
Warming up my English. But how the web, how everything is connected through the mushroom, is it like psyllium?
Yeah, the mycelium. Yeah. Yeah, I think in the ecosystem in Finland we have birch forest, we have mänty, pine forest, we have spruce kuusi forest, and we kind of talk about, that's a mänty forest, that's a kuusi forest, that's a koivu forest. But at the end of the day, the types of mycorrhizal fungi that are living in that forest ecosystem is actually the ones kind of dictating what plants will grow there, what trees will grow there.
Yeah.
So in a way, we think it's the other way around somehow, that the dominating, species in that forest ecosystem are the plants, when in fact, the mushroom is the one that's actually creating the pH level of the soil. It's the one that's actually creating food or ecosystems for the small little insects that are going to be in the soil. It's the one that's pulling up what trace minerals are going to be bioavailable then for those plants. So if a mushroom has evolved or co-evolved to be a symbiotic relationship with koivu, it's going to really try really hard to make that soil ecosystem and that environment, that ecosystem ready for koivu, so it can effectively farm that koivu for sugar. So as the tree grows, it takes, 90-something% of its carbon comes from the atmosphere, right? It's just gas.
Yeah.
And it synthesizes that gas and breathes that CO2 and turns it into wood, right? And then it has leaves that take the sun's energy and then turns that into sugar, right? And that's sort of it's basically just coming out of nothing. It's really cool. But it takes the carbon, it builds itself, and it also delivers, it then takes some of its carbon and some of the light energy and creates a sugar. And it gives that sugar to those fungus in exchange for water and trace minerals from the ground. So if you think of the size of a root tip, the smallest that plants can get, if you think of it as ratio-wise, the size of my finger, right? If that's as small as it could get, the size of hyphae at the tip of the mycelium of fungus can be the width of my hair.
Okay.
It's 100 times smaller. So the ability for fungus to penetrate the soil ecosystem and draw up all that nutrition that a plant needs is just drastically more. So what happened is that just like the plant just said, well, I don't know if I need to evolve this ability that well.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make great relationships with fungi. And the fungus are the same thing. I don't know if I need to actually feed myself. I'm just going to, get the plant to do it for me. I'm going to farm them to give me sugar, and I'll give them all the nutrition. It's not the other way around. So, I think in Finland, what we have the mycorrhizal species of fungus that dominates that creates a birch forest.
Exactly.
We have mycorrhizal species that dominates that creates a pine forest. We have the mycorrhizal species that dominates that creates a spruce forest. And across the world, it's the same thing. So fungi is really, let's say, the foundation of many ecosystems. They're the foundation for how those ecosystems can evolve. And then they act as a communication pathways, for those ecosystems. So, if you're a birch tree over here and you want to, let's say, coordinate the timing of your leaves to change color or drop, you can do that through that mycelial network that all the birch trees are connected with.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
So they communicate these things through different hormones and whatnot, so that they all do something together, right? And so I think it's a really,
yeah.
It's just so complicated. We just try to make things so simple.
Yeah. In the way it makes sense, and it's very, very simple, but at the same time it has so much what we can learn from that as well. And like I have been going picking up the mushrooms as well, but I'm not the professional in this. But some people who are, they really know about this, how specific mushrooms in the Finland as well grows in the specific forest, and which forest is the best to find in specific mushrooms. So in Finland we have as well these medicinal mushrooms in our nature growing, and maybe one of the most popular could be like this chaga. In Finnish it's pakuri, and I think this has long tradition in Finland as well. Do you know about the tradition in Finland, how they have been using this chaga already, like in the Finnish culture? Do you know about anything that?
Yeah, quite a limited amount actually. I mean, I think pakuri was always this kind of coffee alternative during hard times when they couldn't have coffee, right? I don't know how much farther back it goes, the use of this pakuri. I think that there's a lot more, let's say, demonstrated evidence where villages in Russia, for instance, have documentedly used pakuri as their tea, as their hot drink, exclusively, for generations. And you can see the longevity is higher, right? You can see the rates of cancer are lower. So I think that is, at least from an evidence standpoint or a study standpoint, some of the most strongest evidence for me that chaga is really helpful. But I mean, I've been offered chaga tea at let's say some older people's homes in like Lieksa, right, in this kind of Joensuu area, in eastern Finland. So I feel that it's still
near the Russian as well.
Yeah, somehow part of that culture a bit more. Here I haven't, for instance.
Yeah. So it's more like is it on North Russia, like on the Siberia, or is it like all around Russia?
Yeah, mostly the north, where more of the birch trees are growing.
Yeah. It is interesting as well, like, and the chaga is like how it get all that nutrition. Like I have been learning this from you. Like the chaga is kind of like the cancer of the birch tree. So how does that work? Like how does it like what happens to the birch tree when chaga starts to grow there?
Yeah, it's kind of a death sentence actually for the birch tree. So the chaga it's in a process of let's say taking out all that really interesting chemicals and compounds and whatnot from the birch tree. And I think that the chaga itself that we call chaga, right? We call pakuri, this black thing that's sort of on the outside of the birch tree. This is actually, it's not necessarily a fungus or a plant, right? I mean, we love to have this kind of scientific reductionist way of thinking that, okay, that's an animal, that's a plant, that's a mushroom, that's a whatever. But nature doesn't care about these boxes. Nature just flows and does what it wants, right? So the pakuri itself is actually 90% birch cells and only 10% fungal cells, right? So the chaga itself is much more of a plant than a fungus.
That's interesting.
Which is weird to think about, right? I mean, if you feel it, it feels like a tree.
Yeah.
It's really hard, right, if you ever pick one up.
Yeah.
It's only, let's say, 30%, about 50 to 60% moisture, where most fungus fruiting bodies are somewhere around like 80, 90. 95 even % moisture. So it behaves much more like a tree than a fungus anyway. But it's not a tree and it's not a fungus. It's something we don't have a name for, right? And it's the best way that we understand it right now is that it's a reaction of the tree to the presence of the chaga being inside of the tree, right? So if in nature, let's say a storm happens and a tree falls down, it takes off a branch of a birch tree. You have this jagged open wound right now on the tree, and you have 2 spores of chaga, of this Indus obliquus, this Latin species, this Pakuri kappa, falls. And let's say it's perfect conditions. It's moist enough. It's warm enough. It's not directly in the sun.
Everything just connect.
Perfect conditions. Those 2 spores will create a living organism of Indus obliquus or Pakuri, and they'll go inside the tree. And it'll start to colonize the heartwood, the inside, the most dense part of the wood of the birch tree. And it'll start to colonize that and start to eat it and start to take it as its own in a way.
It starts to grow into that.
It starts to grow inside, and you see it running up and down. It can go very fast. It can move as over a meter per year into the tree.
Wow.
It's very, very, very fast. The fastest growing colonizing species that we know of. And then what will happen at some point is that the tree will go, whoa, 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 what's happening? And it'll start to react. And that's where you see that black chaga. And so
coming out.
And it'll come out from a weak place in the bark. So it'll usually come out where the inoculation happened or where the kind of infection happened. But it can come out anywhere. It can come out from a crack in the bark on the totally opposite side, 2 meters below it. Doesn't matter. And sometimes you see trees that have just like 50 little pakuris growing, all little cracks or something in the bark, you know? It can grow for 20, 30, 40, 50 years on a birch tree, just slowly sucking out the minerals, sucking out the compounds.
Yeah.
And that's why it even develops melanin, like our skin has.
Yeah.
This melanin, the skin pigmentation compound, because it's also exposed to UVB rays from the sun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's sucking everything kind of from the tree as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is learning again much more. It's always like when we start to talk about the mushrooms, it's always I learn new stuff from you. And this is like what I love with your company as well is this passion for the mushrooms, and I can hear this from what you're saying as well, like that you have this passion for mushrooms, and it's pretty exciting as well. Like what are the like this like chaga? I think like many people know, but what are the like main benefits what you can get from eating chaga, like pakuri, like making into the tea or something like this?
Yeah. So so in Finland, I think it's a fairly not uncommon, but not super common activity to go out and actually harvest your own chaga, right? And you can easily go out to the forest. It's not covered in every man's rights. So just to be clear, you need permission from the forest owner to take the chaga, because fungus growing on trees is not included in every man's rights. But anyway, once you get some chaga, you can dry it out. It needs to be dried within 24 hours because once it's sterile when it's growing on the tree, but when you cut it, it starts to get an infection. So you want to very quickly dry it or freeze it after harvesting. And then you can break it into small pieces, and you can make tea, for instance. And this is going to help with mainly longevity, as I think what people take it. Longevity, immune system support, these type of things, because the antioxidant levels are so high.
Yeah.
So if you look at what traditionally we think of, maybe not in Finland because we know about chaga, but traditionally we think blueberries, mustika, we think acai berries are very high in antioxidants. Grapes are quite high. And if you look at their total antioxidant capacity, or TAC, you can do a test for that, right? So there's a test called ORAC, O-R-A-C. An ORAC test, you can send a sample into a lab, they'll do the test, and they'll send you the results back, and they give you a number, right? So for blueberries, acai berries, they're like around 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 ORAC. This is pretty high. I mean, this is one of the highest things that we know of. Chaga is 250,000.
Yeah, that's like next level.
It's a totally different thing.
Yeah,
it's a totally different thing. So it's almost it's like you have every one of those centurion zones, the blue zones, right? Where people live consistently over 100 years, they have good mental health, their bodies are still working, et cetera, et cetera. I think Netflix did a great series on this recently.
Yeah, it was good.
You saw?
Yeah.
It was, I loved it.
Yeah.
And all their diets have antioxidants, high levels of things that have antioxidants. They're eating every day. Purple sweet potatoes in Japan, you know? It's like every one of these cultures just has antioxidants that they're eating. Finland used to have that by making pakurutti every day. People in Finland, we've lost it. So I think what's important nowadays is, okay, is the solution to go out and drink that pakurutti every single morning, right? When I met my wife, she was actually making pakurutti and using that as the water base to make coffee. And I was like, okay, man, she's got this figured out, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, as a company, what we're trying to do is make things easier. So a lot of what now what kind of separates like functional mushroom companies and just kind of mushroom companies is going to be the extraction discussion that we have. So making a hot water extract or tea of chaga, you're going to get about 5% of the compounds and interesting stuff inside chaga to be bioavailable in your body. So you have to drink a lot of tea. So you have to drink a whole cup or 2 whole cups or something to get the same amount as a few drops of like an ultrasonicated extracted tincture, right? Or like a quarter of a teaspoon of powder. Yeah. So I think it's just about, dose and about extraction and about that in terms of potency. But
so what is interesting with the chaga as well, I get the chance to visit your chaga farm as well. So there's not much possibilities to harvest that chaga like in basically in Finland, and it's really strict how you can harvest that and how much you can harvest that. But I get the chance to visit this farm what you have been creating, and it have been taking some years that there is some growing happening. So it's always like with the mushroom, it's not like 1 year thing. It can take like 10 years or 15 years to see how it really working. But can you tell a little bit about this chaga farm where we visit this summer?
Yeah, so you're right. So when we first started the company, we were thinking that if we're going to be building a company that is going to be on the back of all the mushrooms, right? I mean, the mushrooms are going to be providing they're going to buy me my car, they're going to pay my mortgage, they're going to help me feed my kids, that we also need to have a reciprocal relationship with the fungi that we make sure they're okay too, right? And every single fungus that we work with, I mean, cordyceps, shiitake, lion's mane, reishi, whatever it is, we have a really good set of ethics and principles that we do, right? So we can source the birchwood that they eat for our indoor grow rooms from, organic certified forests and FSSC certified places for sustainability. That's all good. We can ensure that what we do there is very highly, highly ethical. But with chaga, we were really struggling. And the reason we're struggling is that in Finland, where we source all of our chaga right now, so we have this amazing group of Sami people up in Lapland that are herding reindeer. And when they are herding reindeer, they see chaga, they go, oh, boop, and they mark it on their GPS watch. And then, once a month or something, they go out and they harvest all the chaga. We have a central processing facility up in Lapland where that chaga is brought to. It's frozen or dried right away. It's ground into powder and then shipped down here to southern Finland where we have our main processing facility. Yeah. And okay, we feel really good about that because not only is it this really great activity for the Sami people that they really enjoy, but that the Finnish government is actually ensuring that we're not over-harvesting that chaga.
Which is good as
Which
well.
is great.
Yeah.
And Finland is the only country in the world that is doing that. So it's like, Finland, to go harvest chaga in a public, like organic certified forest, you have to apply for a permit. And then they analyze how much chaga is still there with site surveys. They go, okay, well, maybe you can't pick as much last year as last year. Maybe it's whatever. So every year they set a quota, they give out permits, and then we're audited as a company that we're in compliant with all that. It's a great system. But there's only probably like 20, maybe 30,000 dried kilos of chaga that can be harvested this way commercially and sustainably. So that is a drop in the bucket for the global medicinal mushroom industry. And since our main business is we have the KÄÄPÄ brand, but we're also supplying ingredients to over 130 companies, right? Yeah. So they rely on us to supply them the extract powders or the liquid extracts so that they can make their brand. So we're like, this is not going to work in the future. We can't. We're right now the biggest buyer of chaga in Finland, and over 70% of all the chaga harvested is going to our company. And then we're most of that selling outside Finland, right? So this isn't a model that's going to be sustainable. So what do? We then have to go buy from some other company, like a country like Russia or Estonia, where the regulation isn't so tight. But like that doesn't feel good. So we said, okay, what do? Let's think about growing it. How do you grow it? So thankfully at the time, Luke, the National Research Institute of Finland, fantastic group of people, had done some preliminary studies on can you grow chaga by inoculating the trees. So we looked at those studies, we met with the researchers, and we developed a commercialized procedure to actually do that. So Luke was taking 20 minutes to inoculate a tree. We got it down to under a minute so we could make it commercially viable. We got a lot of forest owners involved in the business. So our model is if you are a forest owner and you own birch forest and you would like to grow chaga for us, we can make that more profitable than growing the trees for you. And you can provide amazing medicine to the rest of the world, basically in doing so. And, we'll take care of the whole thing. So we have a group of amazing inoculation team guys that go out and do the inoculation. We control everything from start to finish. We have great agreements. And we have over, 600 hectares of birch forest being cultivated right now for chaga for our company. So this we can actually up the annual harvest from 30,000 to 70,000, 80,000 kilos. Yeah. So now we're making a pretty big dent in the global chaga needs, let's say, but in a very regenerative and sustainable way.
Exactly.
Right? So we just needed to go, let's think this thing through and find a good answer, right?
And now it's working.
I see it.
I see it. And it's amazing. And I like this, how you guys are working and thinking a little bit steps ahead and working with the nature as well, because many times what is happening in the world is we are just taking from the nature, not giving back.
Definitely.
And this is with many companies. They don't care about even the quality of the substance, what you have in the basically on the mushroom, and then from the nature as well you just take, and many companies doesn't care. But this is something what I love with KÄÄPÄ, having that kind of responsibility and how to do it in the right way as well, because it's huge amount as well, and happy as well, because the best mushrooms can go to some other companies as well to have that kind of highest quality mushroom as well.
I think a wise man once told me in business that if you look around in 5 years after starting your company, 10 years after starting your company, and all you see is competition, then you've done something really wrong. And I heard that, and I was like, wow, that doesn't make any. You always have competition, right? I mean, you peg yourself maybe against competition. You think about what your competitor is doing a lot. I just didn't understand that sentence at all.
Yeah.
And it's actually, man, when you break that down and start thinking about that, it reforms entirely how you should do business, in my opinion. I think it's a very wise statement. I really live by that today. It's okay, let's make partnerships. Right? Let's see, even if we think we're competing, maybe we're not. Maybe we can still help each other out. Find those areas where you can make partnerships. Find those areas where you can collaborate. Find those areas where you don't have to do everything, right? And then let each other, and then benefit. And I think that is such a good piece of advice that I got.
Yeah.
So, we're not, we have a great brand ourselves. We have great products ourselves, but we sell to great brands that have amazing products that we support, and, we help them a lot with the education stuff, with the basis of the scientific evidence behind their products, everything else. We don't need to do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and this is as well a great way to kind of help each other as well to kind of grow, and in the business world this is very beautiful way to as well come together. And I met some of and I know some of the people who are the other brands and companies who are using the KÄÄPÄ mushrooms as well, and I like these people.
Yeah.
They usually like everybody who I have been connecting that you are working with are very good people, and they have good intentions with the products as well.
Yeah.
So there's as well what was like on the like this year on the Biohacker Summit timing. We got very good information, and they have been doing these studies as well. Like if we talk now a little bit like this worldwide situation with mushrooms and medicinal mushrooms, and this was profound study what you release on this summer as well. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we had a vision. I mean, when we started the company, we had this like, you know, we knew we were interested in fungus. That was like just a super inspiring topic. But how to commercialize it and what we were going to do exactly wasn't so clear. And it was kind of looking into all these different avenues. But two major events happened. We had one, we were invited to the like third biohacking summit ever. It was in Helsinki, very small place. And we got a booth there and we brought the products and we sold out in like 4 hours. And we were like, oh God. You know, and I'm calling one of my co-founders like, all right, dude, what are you doing tonight? Nope, you're going to go to the office and you're going to just make more. And you're going to bottle a whole bunch and you're going to bring them in the back of your car. Because at the time, our office was 100 square meter place.
Yeah.
You know, super, super tiny. It was our production facility, our lab, our grow rooms, my office, and a very small table that all the other business people worked at.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And so, you know, I said, yeah, man, go to the office tonight. You got to bottle a whole bunch and bring me in the car tomorrow. And Teemu Surila, because he's living in our village, was like the one who actually brought him in the morning. So it was like this community effort to like just get more products to KÄÄPÄ. And we just had such a great response. And there was no other mushroom companies there. It was all the biohackers were interested. It was kind of a new and emerging idea. And we were like, okay, this is cool. This is going to be interesting. And then the other event that happened at the same time was we were looking at what is this industry? Who are the players? What's happening? What do the big mushroom ingredient suppliers look like? And, you know, we found out that 92% of all the mushrooms in the world are grown in China. It's still the case today, 92%. So, you know, we think in Finland we eat a lot of mushrooms. Like we don't, not even close. I mean, Chinese people are eating mushrooms in almost every dish, you know, a couple times a day. And so 92% of all mushrooms are grown in China. And the biggest kind of medicinal mushroom companies are actually in China. So pretty much every brand, unless they're buying from us, they're pretty much buying from a big Chinese company. That's kind of how it works. So we were like, okay, well, that's cool. But we were looking at like the ethics behind it, the compounds, the CFU levels, the heavy metal levels, all the issues in that space. And we're just like, man, this doesn't feel right. I think there's something we could do. And, you know, one of the big pieces that we wanted to do was going back to this question about the clinicals was that how we evaluate effective, you know, food supplements or nutraceuticals or these kind of functional mushrooms or whatever it is, how we evaluate that in the West, Europe, US, is very different than how they evaluate in China. So in China, for instance, if you buy the most expensive, most revered reishi, it's a black reishi that grows on this one mountain. Because that's the mountain, according to TCM, Chinese traditional medicine, that the dragon came down and blew fire on and turned the reishi black.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's the best. It's the best. You know? And I've been to this reishi museum in China where they have an actual animatronic dragon that they show it coming down and blowing on. It's super cool.
Yeah.
All the CGI.
Yeah.
It's super Chinese, you know. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's great. And these big Chinese companies, what they're doing is 90% of their sales are going to the Chinese domestic market. That is still right now over 90% of the functional mushroom ingredients are being sold in China. So what they're doing is they're pretty much making everything for the domestic market in China, and a little bit they have extra. They sell to the US brands and they sell to European brands, but it's the same stuff they're going to sell. So we said, okay, probably the way that we evaluate effective products in the West is different. We don't care what dragon came where and what color the thing is. We care about the mechanisms of action, right? What are these products good for? If reishi's good for sleep and we're going to take it for sleep, what are the compounds responsible for sleep, right? Now, we're not a pharmaceutical company, so we're not going to extract those compounds, but we need to know what they are, and we want those ones to be let's say in high levels in the final product, right? And then we're going to do human clinical trials to be able to show that it's effective. Just like great brands like Onnit, for instance, does in the US, or Thorne, the best kind of nutraceutical brands. So we want to prove efficacy. So that was our original idea, like 6.5, oh my God, it's 7 years ago, whenever it was when we started the company. And we were so happy to publish our first human clinical trial this year. It was such an honor. It was such a great moment of like, God, we went from nothing to, okay, the biohackers saying, yes, we appreciate what you're doing. This is going to work for you guys. To then wanting to do all these big clinical evidence trials to actually then getting that done was so cool. So we sent the study to a series of journals because we didn't want to publish it as a company. Because if we would publish it as a company, you as an individual, how do you know that that's a really good study or not? It's just, I could publish it. I could just publish it on my website, right? It doesn't mean that it was done with rigorous scientific, valid methodology or peer-reviewed, or, it wasn't really done in the scientific process. So a lot of companies will publish their own studies, and it's like, well, okay, how do you trust that? How do you know that that's good? Not all of us have a PhD to analyze if a study is done with effective methodologies or whatever, right? And I don't even really know, actually. Yeah. So we said, okay, we're going to submit it to peer-reviewed journals, and if they take it, then we did a good job, right? So we hired, we sent it out to a lot of these journals, and one picked it up. It's a peer-reviewed journal in the U.S. called Ingredients, Nutrition, and they picked up the study and published it within a couple months, which is huge, very, very fast. So they published it early this year, and to me the results were incredible because it was the first human clinical trial for lion's mane to look at the acute benefits of lion's mane, which is a very kind of novel way of looking at lion's mane, because the reason the biohackers 6 years ago and our company as well got really into lion's mane was due to in vivo trials, but with rats, right? Where they looked at, rats that have, they would give rats lion's mane, and then they would open up their brains at the end and see how many neuron connections they have. Did they have neurogenesis? And there was a series of trials, both in angelfish and in mice, that found, lion's mane's actually, what's going on here? It's increasing neurogenesis. And then over the past years, we've been able to understand the compounds that are responsible for that and learn a lot more about it. But obviously with humans, we can't open up brains at the end of a trial. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't work. Yeah. So we had to take this kind of, well, if it's happening in mice and angelfish, probably it's also happening neurogenesis in humans. So we said, okay, that's cool. But those trials were 3 months long. So, on podcasts and everywhere, I was always telling people, well, the only clinical evidence we have for lion's mane, because on Instagram, you see, hey, I have a meeting in the afternoon. I'm going to take lion's mane and then, I'm going to kill it. Yeah. And we're like, there just isn't evidence to support those claims at all. Yeah. But we were like, well, maybe we should do a study then to find out, right? Yeah. So we did a study to find out, and effectively we validated what people on Instagram were feeling, is that within 60 minutes and 90 minutes of taking lion's mane, you have increased cognition. You have increased short-term memory. You have increased mood, you feel better, and you have decreased depression symptoms. Just like that, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And that over the 3-week trial, right, we compared it against caffeine and we compared it against a placebo. And we could see that we're better than caffeine and we're better than a placebo for those metrics on standardized tests. So that was amazing. But then the coolest thing is, if you look at the effect that caffeine has, because it does have an effect, it is good for cognition, it is good for your mood. Yeah. But the effect goes down a little bit every time you take it, right? In Finland now we're at 7 cups of coffee? Yeah. The average person takes a day. Yeah. It's crazy, right? Yeah, it is. It's too much, and it's a nervous system stimulant. So your body builds up a resistance. So maybe all those people drinking 7 cups of coffee started with 1, probably, and you just go, oh, now I need 2. Now I need that afternoon coffee. Yeah, the brain all the time builds more this, how you call this, what are receiving that kind of, and the coffee comes so they are building more and more. So every time you drink more coffee, you need more next time. Exactly. Yeah. Which is a good mechanism to have.
Yep.
Because nervous system stimulants can be really intense on our bodies. So it's good that we build up kind of a resistance to it, right? But I think obviously lion's mane isn't a nervous system stimulant. The mechanism of action is it's getting in the blood, crossing the blood-brain barrier, increasing NGF nerve growth factor, BDNF brain-derived nootropic factor, and increasing neurogenesis. So what we saw is the actual increase of the ability of cognition, increase of short-term memory over those 3 weeks. So it's slow and gradual. You get a higher benefit every time you take it.
Yeah.
So if you take lion's mane now, we're going to feel something. If we take it again tomorrow, we're going to feel something, but a little bit more. Take something, So it stacks on itself because it's fundamentally changing your brain chemistry. It's fundamentally building a better foundation for your life, right? It's actually increasing neurogenesis. It's making more nerve cells. You are, whatever you want to do, you can do it better if you're consistently taking lion's mane,
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful, what a crazy thing, right?
Yeah, and something what I'm investing in myself is to my brain as well. And lion's mane is one of the products what I use. I think like mostly reishi and lion's mane, but lion's mane I love because I love to be in this very clear clarity state where I remember things and everything is flowing nicely. So lion's mane and bilbo, I don't remember bilbo genoa. What there's this one substance what is as well really great for the brain, and this one who have been studying the scan most of the brains is telling like this bilbo I remember the name now fully, but this is like something what he takes every day as well to get that kind of healthy brain blood rush and all these things.
Yeah, and there's many mechanisms of action for increased cognition. It's not just neurogenesis.
Yep.
If you think of a nootropic, something that's helping us with cognition and brain function, you could take like a lot of different ones. It doesn't mean that the ones are better than anyone else. It just means that they have different ways of working on your brain. So, increased blood flow, great. That's fantastic. Lion's mane's not doing that.
Yeah.
Right? But it's the ginkgo biloba is probably not doing the neurogenesis. Right. Also, people take caffeine. I think caffeine's a great nootropic. Nicotine also can be a great nootropic as well, right? But they all have different ways that they sort of affect, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like the mushroom world is it's super interesting, and there's so many different ways where we can go. But I would like to hear a little bit about your story as well. So. You have your roots as well in Finland. So your name is Eric Puro. There is some Finnish there already. So how did you? How did this happen?
Yeah.
And you grow up in United States, right?
Yeah. So I was born in Indiana in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I guess my grandfather's father decided to move to the U.S. from Finland. So they were from this kind of Karelia, North Karelia area, and didn't see a future, I think, for themselves there. I think the wartime was just over. Russia just took a huge amount of this territory. The economy in Finland wasn't great. It was kind of this hard time. And I think he just decided, hey, let's just go. There's a lot of people that he probably knew in this Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan kind of area. Let's go there. So they moved to an area in Wisconsin called Toivo, Wisconsin. So hope in English, Toivo. And it's a Finnish community where they're probably growing rye, they're cutting trees down, they're mining copper, very similar things to what they're doing in Finland. So he was able to plug himself in, I think, to that society pretty easily. And then my grandfather decided that, the weather wasn't so great up in Wisconsin, and decided to move south down to northern Indiana, which is, same basically, but maybe a little bit better. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then raised his family there, and my father decided to then stay in the same town. And I think it was my grandfather's father didn't have so amazing words to speak about Finland at the time, right? I mean, think he left the country because he thought there'd be something better somewhere else. So it wasn't like he had this beautiful image of Finland that he instilled into his sons that then instilled into their kids. No. It was kind of the opposite. My grandfather didn't have he grew peruna, porkana, ratissi. He had this kind of Finnish stuff that he did, but he wasn't like a big fan of Finland. It wasn't a big part of our so we didn't learn the language. We didn't understand much of the Finnish culture. My father was the first one to go, hey, where am I from and who am I? And let's start to explore this thing. And I remember as a kid, he would always build a sauna in the basement of our houses, in the basement.
That's so
nice. So it was like, it was his approach at what a Finnish sauna was. So I remember he would put this kind of spruce paneling, and he had a harvia kiwas. It was sakko, but something.
Yeah.
And we would have family sauna on Sundays, kind of thing. There was no löyly. It was totally dry sauna because he didn't know.
Ah, okay.
And then you open the door and it's like American carpet everywhere. And you have to, you have to walk really far to go outside even, Yeah. And there just wasn't this culture of, he didn't know.
Yeah.
He didn't know, but he knew sauna, Finnish sauna. I'm Finnish, goddammit, and I'm going to do this kind of sauna thing.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of this, weird thing that I was growing up having this kind of sauna. But I think it was, it wasn't ever, okay, I just knew in my blood, okay, I'm maybe around 50%, 25%, Finnish. But it wasn't a big piece of my life. It wasn't until I, long story short, but decided to go hitchhike around the world for like 10 years.
Yeah.
That I came to Europe.
And this was kind of like your hippie area.
My hippie area.
Did you were working before this just quick?
Quickly I was doing corporate advisory services for a company in Chicago called KPMG. So they're global Big Four accounting firm. And so they do, them and 3 other companies do like 90% of all the publicly traded companies' accounting. And they also have this advisory services division. So I would go and advise different companies on things, for instance. And I did about a year of that-ish and decided that this is not going to be my life. And I mean,
there was something calling you.
Something else was out there for sure. But I think it's so easy, and I think probably a lot of our listeners, people listening, can agree or empathize with this somehow. That we kind of, as we're growing up, like our brain doesn't fully form to what we're 25, right? I mean, we're growing up and we're so influenceable by people around us. Even now, you and me, we're so still influenceable by people around us, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, at that age, you really are. And I did what my teachers told me to. I got good grades. I played the game. I went to a good university. I got good grades. I played the game. I interned at great companies. I just did, whatever was needed. And I found myself at the end of it all working in Chicago at this company, flying to a client site on Monday, working 80 hours a week, flying home Thursday night, spending Friday in the office in Chicago, and then doing it again and again and again and again, having, no life on the weekends, zero time to spend with friends and family, anything, going, this is the gift. I work really hard to get all these good grades and do everything that was said, and this is what I get at the end of it. So I had a midlife crisis. I had this what am I doing? Why did I do this all? Like, I worked really hard and now I just have to work really hard again. And I have all this money, but I can't spend it even.
But this was already when you were pretty young.
I was like 21.
Yeah, 21.
22, basically.
Exactly.
So I had this midlife crisis at a very young age. And I said, you know what? Good God, I still have all my life in front of me. And I don't have enough information to make good decisions. I can't right now go, this is a good thing I'm doing or a bad thing I'm doing. I am so, I don't understand this world at all. And because of that really strong feeling, I said, I need to go out there and actually learn about the real world. So I quit, which was crazy. I mean, I was making great money. I had the best job you could think of after business school, but I just quit and I left it. And I said, I'm going to go figure out what this world's about. And I just started traveling. Went to Oregon for a while. So basically, like a long story short, I decided to go learn what's going on in this world. I went to Oregon. I lived in the woods for a while. I found my strong connection with nature in that process. I decided to hitchhike a ride on a sailboat to get to Europe. So I was driving up and down the east coast of the U.S. trying to find a sailboat captain to take me and some buddies over to Europe. And then we got to Estonia. We spent some time there. I developed a project. We were learning a lot about natural building. Was a big thing for me to connect, a vehicle for me to connect more with nature.
And you were on these eco communities.
And then I spent a lot of time at eco communities. Yeah. So I lived at a lot of these big eco villages and squat projects. So just everything, just learning about the world and who all these people are and the other side of the world that we don't see so often. So I was like squatting carpet factories in London and Hackney. Before Hackney was cool. Hackney was not cool back then. It was sketchy. And I was squatting these carpet factories, resisting arrest and creating beautiful community and giving lectures, and I was going around to all these music festivals and I was lecturing about how we could connect more with nature. And I had this big, beautiful beard and I didn't wear shoes. And
did you have long hair?
Had long hair, of course. And just living my best life, just having a great 20s, amazing. And then I was like, squatting some projects in Portugal, in Sintra area. So there's all these wealthy people that had their fourth farm, there, and we didn't even know they owned it probably. So it was a cool experience, and just getting to know a lot of people and a lot about ecological movement and what's going on there and the environment, and also a lot about just people in life in general and how we should be living, and just spending a lot of my days having those discussions and exploring those different topics. I think led me to understand who I am. It gave me a really good, school's good. Schools teaches you a lot of the fundamentals of skills and things to live and do work in an office, but it doesn't really help you develop a good set of values that you have, right? It doesn't help push you. Even I studied philosophy and ethics. It still didn't push. It doesn't do that. You need real life examples of challenges, of hardships to fucking mold you, to push you to a place that you feel uncomfortable a lot. And in that exchange of chaos emerges something, and I think that's great. And I don't know, for me, it was unconscious, but I just tried to do everything in the hardest way possible, right? I biked across the US with a bicycle, did 150 kilometers a day. I ran marathons. I hitchhiked. I lived on 2,000 euros a year for 8 years. Basically, destitute poverty. I volunteered to live myself in. I didn't have money, couldn't buy me out of any situation. Even getting, if I was hitchhiking to go from point A to point B, I didn't have money to do anything else. I couldn't rent a taxi or buy a ticket on a train. I was going to be out there in the rain hitchhiking for days, sleeping next to the bridge, which happened in France a couple times because they don't like to pick up hitchhikers, until someone gave me a ride. And I had those hardships. Right? I didn't have money, couldn't buy me out of anything. I just had to live. And I think that is a great way to find out who you are and where you crack. And then after that experience, you not only have a great set of values that you can use to guide your life and make decisions faster and feel more confident about who you are, but you also know that you can really endure a lot of hardships, right? So when hardships come in your life, it's not like the cold plunge you had in the morning. It's no, real, true hardships.
Exactly.
Very painful moments, very uncomfortable situations you've been in for a long time, right? That you really know, I can do anything. I'm going to be comfortable anywhere. Exactly. I can talk to anybody. Yeah. Right? I mean, and I've been just with these hitchhiking stories, you just meet the craziest people who bring you back to their house, cook you dinner, get you some booze, and you have a crazy night, and it's not like you curate that. You just are out there in the wilderness, in the world, just experiencing whatever is thrown at you.
Yeah, and this is a little bit different way where usually you go to the school and you go to the job and usually that it is. But you were kind of breaking the system in the way to kind of find yourself then. Yeah. So what happened then?
Well, I mean,
you were traveling to Estonia, and did you came to Finland then?
Not at that time, but I did eventually come to Finland. But I was in England and I met my my partner. Her name is Satu, and we met in England at a music festival. And she was volunteering, and I was doing a lecture about connecting with nature, and we fell in love. And she jumped in my van, which we had 10 people in.
That's nice.
And just never left the van, basically. So we then went to Scotland, and then we hitchhiked all the way down to Morocco because it was becoming winter and it was getting really cold. So we wanted to get warm. So we decided to hitchhike to the desert together. And we hitchhiked around Morocco for a few months and eventually went back up to Portugal when it got a bit nicer.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, just that was the life. And she was Finnish, Satu.
Yeah.
So she was Finnish. So I don't know if the connection we had was this kind of Finnish. I don't know. It's impossible to say. In the moment, I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But maybe that was something there. And so she brought me. So then we had many years later. We had our first daughter, Ada, and it was like this moment of realization that something happens. Like when you're a father, when you become a father, you start to realize, oh my God. I guess I can swear on this podcast. Yeah. But you got to get your shit together. Yeah, is how I feel. It totally changes. You have a responsibility that you never have even begun to understand before. Mm-hmm. A little bit when you have a partner or if you get married, you have a little bit more responsibility than just taking care of yourself. But it's nothing like having a kid. Yeah, this thing is totally vulnerable. It looks up to you for every decision you make is going to impact its life in a big way. Actually. It's just a huge responsibility in a way. So I was like, oh God, we can't just keep living like this. We gotta figure something out. And it was like, the best part is that you have 9 months. Yeah. You know, when you find out you're pregnant, 9, maybe 8 months at that point, maybe it's 7 months after you find out you're pregnant, but you have some time, right? So in that time, it was like, okay, poof, what are our priorities? It was just, what do we need to do? We need to focus. How do we get there? What security do we need to start building in our life? What is the place we want to raise our daughter? We had to start thinking about school systems, other people with kids in the area. We were living in this eco community in Kentucky. Like, oh God, there's not many other kids here, and you just start thinking about life very differently. Yeah. And so part of that kind of equation was, you know, we had a great group of friends. We had bought land together, but they didn't have kids, and my wife and I, we wanted to have a little bit more security for the child as well. So we're like, oh, okay. So we go to Finland and we go to Espoo, and we're showing her parents, here's your grandparents now. Here's your grandchild, you know. And we're staying in Espoo in there. They thankfully had a house. So we're like kind of in this house. Mm-hmm. There's enough space. But I still am allergic to cities, you know. I was like, get me out of here. So after a couple of days, I was like, take me to the nature. I got to get out of this place. And she brought me to Nuuksio. Yeah. And I took my shoes off and I'm walking through Nuuksio and I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is it. This is it. And I have traveled all over the world, all over Asia, Africa, Europe, US, like all over the place. And I've never felt that home anywhere. Yeah, I can feel it. And I was like, oh, dude, this is it. This is why I felt a little bit uncomfortable my whole life. I felt just a little bit, this isn't my place my whole life. And I don't know what it was. And it was that, in that moment, I realized it was that I haven't been in Finland. Wow. That I said, this is my ecosystem. This is my forest. This is where I belong. This is what I identify with. This is like everything, every cell in my body is screaming at me to just move here and be part of this, you know? Yeah. and I don't have those, I'm not like this crazy, you know, guy that just goes, 1 minute I'm doing this, the next minute I'm not that kind of person. But like, I just told her we're moving to Finland. Like we're selling everything in the States, we're moving to Finland. Yeah, it must be very strong. You had this very strong, like, we are moving to Finland now. Yeah, full confidence. You know, full confidence. I know exactly what we're doing. Yeah. And she's like, no way, come on, Finland's so small. Come on, why would we, you know, And I said, no, we need to give it a shot. Yeah. We need to change our life right now. We also need to move to Finland. This is the place. This is the path I see for our family. And we did it. We went back to the US, we wrapped up our business and stuff, and we moved to Finland. And we were staying at one of our family's like summer house in Lohja area for a while. And that winter, after we moved, my daughter was about, just turned 3. My wife actually died. So we were in the summer house, and she didn't have any medical problems or anything, but just you know, just no medication or anything, but just died. She just let out a big sigh and fell down at the table. We were having dinner. Yeah, I'm sorry. And I was giving her CPR, and I called, of course, this 112, and you know, the ambulance was coming. but I think she died pretty much right away. They found this blood burst in her brain, and I think even if she was in a hospital, it wouldn't have made a difference. So I'm there like doing CPR on my wife, thinking in my head, okay, everything can change. Okay, fine. We move next to a hospital. We do whatever is needed. Maybe she comes back and she's not fully mentally there. Oh, that's fine. Whatever will happen. Just reforming my identity and reforming my reality. And my 2-year-old is like kissing her mother goodbye. The 2-year-old fully accepted that this was it. There was nothing, and she was just saying goodbye to her mother and kissing her. And then of course they told us that she died and there's nothing that we can do anymore. And it kind of put me in the situation of like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, now I have this daughter. I don't even know what size clothes that she wears. I didn't take that part of the responsibility. Yeah. I have to be now I'm a single father. I have a business, KÄÄPÄ. I just started. I'm in a weird place. I don't speak the language. I still don't really speak that great.
Yeah.
What do I do with my life? And I just felt like I got really good advice from somebody that said, right now, just don't make decisions. Just don't make any decisions in this kind of traumatic brain state. Just be. And I took that advice to heart from someone I really trust, and I didn't. I said, okay, I'm in Finland. I'm going to stay in Finland. I'm at KÄÄPÄ. I'm going to go to work every day, or take a couple of months off. But I'm going to just go to work. I'm going to take care of my daughter. I'm going to focus on the things that are important. And I think it was a really hard situation. But I knew that in trauma, I don't know if you've ever experienced serious like trauma like this, and for me it was also this kind of very traumatic death that she had, because she was in my arms. I mean, it was really hard. So I closed my eyes and it would just replay that scene. That's the only thing I could think of, just all the time before I go to bed. When talking to somebody, it was I never have had anxiety in my life. I've always been a pretty confident guy.
Yeah.
I've never had any of this stuff. And I'm almost in paralysis. I can't even function almost.
Yeah, like in shock.
In shock, total shock. So everywhere around me, people are dying. I'm watching someone cross the road and I'm seeing them get hit by a car. I'm constantly in a state of stress. I'm sweaty. I'm just feeling anxious and overwhelmed all the time. It was horrific. And I'm just thinking at the end of the day, like, the brain is crazy in these moments. Like you actually suppress all the memories you have of that person. So I couldn't remember anything about her. Nothing. I couldn't remember the years that we had, 7 years before that we had together. I couldn't remember our wedding day. I couldn't remember the birth of our child with her there. I could remember other things, but who's giving the birth wasn't there in my memory. So I lost her physically and I lost her completely in my mind as well. And just it was horrific. And I remember able to kind of get over it and accept that I need to move on, but just these lagging feelings of guilt that I'm not dead, that I get now to experience all these beautiful moments with my daughter. And I'm at like Moomy Land with my daughter crying because she's having such a good time. We're hearing these, I don't know if you've been there, but the Moomies, like they're doing this. You have, yeah. Yep. They're doing the songs, when you first get to the park. And I'm just sitting there crying because that was something for my wife in the U.S. that's so Finnish that she wanted to do with her daughter, right? To show her this Moomy Land and give her this experience. And she can't experience it, but I can. And how is that fair, right? And just this really big feelings of guilt and all these very negative, very, very, very negative emotions, right? And overwhelmingly negative emotions, just very, very negative emotions. And I thought, I need to get back to life. I need to get back to living. And my heart, it just feels like it's totally crusted over. And I'm just so negative about a lot of things. And that's not who I am. So I was like, I need to take a serious amount of psychedelics, right? I want to really do this in a controlled environment with a practitioner, and really put the eye mask on, put the ear protection on, and really have this deep, deep, deep dive in myself and really start to process this very traumatic event. This was maybe 9 months after she died, maybe a little bit more even. And maybe, it was about 6 months after she died, actually. I started to have these thoughts that I want to do this. And, but I couldn't find, obviously it's illegal in Finland, couldn't find anyone to do it. So I found the Holotrophic Breathing Association here in Finland. And holotrophic breathing, probably you know, but it's you're able to tap into those kind of very similar psychedelic experiences. It
kind of goes into that. It's kind of like trauma breathing in the way. It kind of takes you into that state of trauma in the way, like the breathing style.
Yeah. And Valde, a beautiful guy from Turku, who's sort of leading this association, and they put on retreats every few weekends. And I said, a friend said, okay, you can't do the psychedelics. It's you can't find someone to do it. I didn't want to go travel to Netherlands or somewhere. Just do the holotropic breathing. It's very similar. And I was like, okay, yeah, right. Breathing is going to induce kind of a psychedelic state and this kind of deep trauma processing. And but I just like, what am I going to lose? Paid a couple €100, whatever it was, and I went to the retreat. And I'm in this. So you have, it's kind of like what Lee does or this kind of Wim Hof, but it's like hours of deep, as much as you can breathe, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's a marathon for your lungs. It is intense.
Yeah.
You've done.
I haven't done this way, but
Okay.
but I have been doing like a little bit longer sessions, so I know.
You know a little bit,
but not like hours, but I know what it kind of done.
Your hands are squeezing.
Yeah.
It's really intense in your body, and you have to just constantly resign, constantly just accept and let go all the time. It's so physically demanding that you just. Yeah. And I remember, so I'm just breathing, and I'm thinking, okay, what's supposed to happen? But like, just let go. Fuck it. I'm just here to breathe. Just breathe, and I'm just breathing and as much oxygen as I could. Oh my God, it's like the life force. And I need more oxygen. I just need more. Breathe, more deep breaths. And I'm lying down, and lying down is not enough. I need to actually sit up. I need to take more oxygen in, And I started to feel this now. Oh my God, I'm feeling just like I'm floating. I'm feeling so light for the first time. Yeah. And just more oxygen. And I'm just hyperventilating to the absolute extreme, right? Yeah. And I'm like, this is life force, and I'm arching my back. I'm trying to extend my lungs. I can't get enough oxygen in, right? And I'm like fully embracing this practice. Yeah. And then I just collapsed. And I just laid down. And I had these very strong hallucinations. And I'm hallucinating, I'm flying in the universe. And I'm overseeing all the stars and planets. And I'm just like feeling that warm embrace by the universe, right? That we are all one, we are all connected. Very psychedelic feeling, right? Very comforting, very amazing feeling to have. And then all of a sudden, this purple light shows in front of me. And my wife, Satu, she would always wear purple. Wow. And I felt this is her presence right now. It wasn't a picture of her, it wasn't her, it was just this purple, like light energy. And all of a sudden, all the memories that I lost, right, from the trauma, the brain trauma, were coming back. So like our wedding day, amazing conversations that we've had, special moments during hitchhiking, conversations that we've had, the birth of our daughter, all these very amazing, beautiful spiritual moments of our relationship have come back. And for the first time, this very negative energy about guilt actually became this beautiful gratitude, is how I could say it. Gratitude for the time that we had together. The focus from me shifted from thinking about the death and how this kind of wasn't fair for our daughter and that I'm guilty and all this kind of the death, just the death, to the actual, oh my God, 7+ years of beautiful experiences that we had together that helped grow me and make this beautiful child and all the beauty that it had out of it. And it totally shifted my perspective in that moment. And I just instantly sort of resolved a lot of the trauma in just that one session. It was incredible, right? And it was a little bit like her saying, come on, go live. Just what are you doing here? Get out of this workshop. What are you wasting your time doing, right? Why are you here? Go live. Go be with our daughter. Go build your business. Go do life. Live your dreams. Go find those things. Stop not doing that, Yeah. And I felt that, okay, to honor her life and to honor her would be to go and live, to go find a new partner, to go raise my kid in a most beautiful way, to get a beautiful house to raise her, to build this business and give this medicine to people that really need it. That is what I need to do, not to focus on all these negative feelings about her not being here. And it just shifted, and I just felt free. I felt like, God, I don't want to be a part of this tonight's sauna and talk to people. I just want to go home. I'm done. I got what I needed. Drop the mic. I'm off the stage. I'm ready to live, what a freeing feeling it was. Now, okay, it took, but it wasn't like an instant change in my life and I could just live happily again. I would still go back and forth from those kind of dark feelings. Yeah. But I was taken to the top of a mountain and shown what life should be, what we should feel each day when we wake up. Yeah. Gratitude, excitement to live our life, excitement to do whatever. This podcast today, I woke up feeling really just gratitude to come and hang out with you and talk to you about stuff for a while today, right? That is what we should feel every day. And if we don't even know what that feeling feels like, how do we ever imagine we could be there, right? So what a beautiful technique that this Valde and this association as a whole in Finland is able to give people to just go, God, if I'm sitting here just feeling not so great about life. I don't know what to do. I don't like my job. I don't like who I am. Whatever. Dude, go fix that now. Don't wait any more minutes. Go do that right now, because life is an amazing gift, right? And it doesn't matter what. Maybe you've experienced deeper trauma than I have, right? Maybe you haven't. Maybe it's all relative. But whatever it is, you need to go figure that out and go live your life. The people around you depend on it. Your life depends on it. And the gifts that you can give to the society and to each other, it depends on it. So for me, what an incredible thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'd be now if I didn't do that.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for sharing. This was like really touching, and thank you.
Yeah.
I have, in the end, I know you're a busy man, and you have some plans for today as well. So it's special occasion for us to hear from you a little bit about the mushrooms as well, and need to say as well, like I'm super happy to have you in here in Finland and have kind of how this path has been taking you back to here. One question I have. 3 questions more. What I really crave to ask you. The first is, do you believe in destiny?
Yeah, like some sort of meaning in everything. This idea,
like there's some greater meaning for.
Yeah, I do now. I think the story I just told you had me really questioning that.
Yeah.
Had me really questioning how possibly there's some meaning in this, and I think that I really believe that there's meaning in everything now, fully. Yeah. And I think that actually, the tougher life is, the absolute tougher it is to find out what that meaning is. But I really feel that if you take as an axiom that there is meaning in the universe and there is meaning in everything that we do, which I believe there is, right? If you take that as a truth to yourself, and then your goal is to find out what that is, what an amazing practice, right? What an amazing life practice to just go, there's a reason why I'm here doing this right now. What is it? Why am I here? It's very conscious. It's a very, very focused practice. It's a very thoughtful way of living your life. And I just enjoy that way of living life. Yeah. To think, why am I here? What am I doing? Oh, yeah. How did I become this mushroom person? How did I become, how did that all happen? Yeah. I don't need to think too hard about it. Yeah. I'm here. It's a reason. That's my meaning. Okay. Yeah. I just, let me do that in my best possible version of that. Yeah. Let me focus on these things as much as I can and do the best job.
And you're doing it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. And the second question is about the mushroom as well. Like we go a little bit through about the chaga and lion's mane, but can you just quickly tell our listeners about the mushrooms, what you have, like the main kind of benefits, what usually like people can get from if we go just like quickly go through the chaga, lion's mane, reishi.
So chaga is very good for longevity and immunity. All the mushrooms are actually very good for immunity. So they have beta-glucans, which are immunoadaptogenic.
Yeah.
But they all have their kind of secondary specific benefit as well. So for chaga, that is very much longevity, the antioxidants. Lion's mane is cognition, I would say, brain development. Neurogenesis, which nerve cells are in our brains, our guts, and our spinal cord.
Yeah.
So it's actually good for all of those things, right? And then reishi is incredible for sleep, specifically deep sleep or non-REM sleep. So very, very important part of the sleep where we form all of our synapsal connections and build memory and build learning. So whatever you learn throughout the day, if you don't get great deep sleep, it's like you didn't have it happen at all. So that's very crucial. And then shiitake is very, very, very good at dealing and supporting your immune system when you're at the first sign of getting sick. So it has compounds that are cytoprotectants or cellular protectants to stop a virus from coming into your cell and then replicating itself. Yeah. So that's a crucial one. And cordyceps is, which we're going to be launching a European cordyceps product actually within the next few months with our own brand. So cordyceps are really good for energy, right? So they actually contain a lot of adenosine, which is like ATP. It's like cellular energy in our bodies. And then they also are very vasodilative, so it's helping you get more oxygen into your muscles. So like we work with Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, these football clubs, 10 Premier League football players, you know, to really help them perform at the best. So the cordyceps is great for that, you know.
Yeah, this is like, you know, even with this, just like with these mushrooms, maybe next time we can a little bit dive, because it's very, very interesting about every mushroom has its own story as well. Definitely. And how it have come, and I wanted to touch with some of these, but it will be on next time. Yeah, because like with the reishi, we could talk about much more, and I'm very interested about how the Chinese have been using the mushrooms like so long time, and everything what comes with the Chinese medicine. And this, we have this, my friend Ossi was here, West, who is like this Chinese medicine professional, mostly like on the acupuncture, but we have great episode from that. Yeah. So in the end, I like to ask this. I have been asking this question usually like in Finnish, so I don't know how to ask it in English, but in Finnish it goes like, because you understand Finnish as well, but I say it in Finnish like, mitä sä haluat jättää jälkees sitten kun on sun aika lähteä tästä jatkaa matkaa? What is like, what you want to leave behind you when it's your time to go? What will be, what will you like to leave your handprint in the way living in this world?
Yeah, I think as primarily a parent of 3 kids, I feel my role mainly is to teach them to grow up with good values and have a good life, and pass that on, and that to me extends to that they understand their role in our ecosystem, they understand the responsibility of taking care of this planet. You know, they understand the ability to search for something more meaningful and deeper, to identify with some spirituality. So I just feel like, you know, we can make a really, really, really big general impact, or we can make something really specific on a few people, and that's where I want to live. I want my kids to maybe listen to this podcast one day, even, because this will be here forever. It's now on the internet, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But I just really want my kids to, when I leave, that I really feel like they are contributing positively and living their own life and just doing a great job. That would be. Then I'm done. Yeah, then I feel good.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I want to add this as well. Like, I don't have my kids on my own now, but this is something what I have been, when I have been thinking about spirituality and all these things, and I have been sharing a little bit what I want to live as well here. But I on my life, I believe the main thing in our life is to have children and grow our children to be better human beings than we were. Yeah. And kind of cut some of those trauma that we don't make those like in our bloodline.
Yeah.
It is like important. So this is something crystallizing for me more and more when I hate.
Well, it's not hard to make kids, man.
Yeah,
you know, it's pretty fun actually. So yeah, feel free to do it anytime.
Yeah, the time is coming. The time is coming.
Yeah.
But hey, it was so honor and great to have you as guest here. Looking forward to talk a little bit more about the mushroom and life as well, because
Definitely.
you are very inspirational, and thank you for sharing your story as well.
Yeah, you too, brother. Really honor this friendship, and thanks for the invitation today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, thank you for listening. Make some comment over there and click the like and share. Thank you and much love there.
Boom, boom.
Woo! Kiitos, että kuuntelit tämän jakson. Erik on todellinen pioneeri, mitä tulee näiden sienten kanssa työskentelyyn, ja oikein tietopankki. Pääsi aina ammentamaan uutta informaatiota, inspiraatiota, ja oli todella inspiroivaa myös kuulla Erikin tarinaa ja syvä sukeltaa hieman siihen. Oltiin tärkeiden asioiden parissa. KÄÄPÄ Mushroomsin on tosiaan tämän podcastin pääsponsori, ja käyttämällä koodia Syvää Henkee heidän verkkokaupassaan saat sieltä alennusta kaikista sienituotteista sekä samalla tuet tätä podcastia. Voit myös tukea tätä podcastia tykkäämällä, kommentoimalla, jakamalla sekä ehdottomasti tilaamalla kanavan ja antamalla Spotifyssa arvostelun. Kiitos! Kaikki tuki on enemmän kuin tervetullutta ja kaikki vuorovaikutus myös. Nimittäin on tosi inspiroivaa ja rikasta itselle, kun olette myös kommentoineet ja jakaneet sosiaalisessa mediassa tätä podcastia. Se merkitsee todella paljon ja kiva saada tätä enemmän kuuluvia korvia viedä eteenpäin tätä hommaa. Kiitos. Seuraavassa jaksossa meillä on Suomen kamppailulajien tulevaisuuden lupaus, Magomed Kadiev. Ollaan Magan kanssa päästy treenailemaan ja on päässyt näkemään myös hänen matkaansa tässä niin kuin hänen omalla urallaan, ja todella innoissaan tästä kaverista ja uskon häneen vahvasti. Ja seuraavassa jaksossa päästään kuulemaan Magaa ja sukeltamaan hieman kamppailulajien pariin. Sitä odotellessa paljon rakkautta sinne. Ja kuullaan pian.